tan importante en donde hemos estado escuchando pláticas súper interesantes, ¿verdad? Hoy vamos a empezar entonces ahora con Chicano History and Politics. Let's us break down the wall between Mexico and Mexican America. Nuestro ponente, tenemos el gusto de tenerlo nosotros ahora aquí con nosotros, otra vez con nosotros, Armando Rendón. Somos el escrito, que es uno de sus manifiestos que él tiene. Armando Rendón, a lifelong opponent of Chicanismo in the U.S., is editor and founder of Somos en Escrito, the Latino literary online magazine, the author of seminary work on Chicanos, Chicano Manifiesto, the award winner, Books for Young Adults. He holds the Juris Doctor from the American University in Washington, D.C., and taught in the college seminar program in San Mario College, Morgana, California, from 22 years. Demos la bienvenida al profesor Dr. Armando Rendón.
Un placer estar con ustedes. Disculpen que voy a leer mi ensayo en inglés. Se llama Let's Break Down the Wall Between Us. In 1848, the U.S. created a border at the Rio Grande by invading and effectively cut off the Mexicans living north of the river from the motherland. That was the first wall we had to endure. Following the end of the U.S. war against Mexico, the Mexicans who chose or had no choice but to stay behind the new border became virtually isolated in then rural communities. Eventually, as more white settlers and speculators migrated into the Southwest, the Mexican people lost any dominance they might have had, even though many Mexican settlements were actually the foothold around which towns and then huge cities developed. The new Mexican-American population also became isolated from Mexico. 30 years later, Porfirio Diaz's regime took root and eventually forced into motion the migration of hundreds of thousands of Mexicans into the U.S. My own abuelos, on my mother's side, crossed the border at Rio Piedras in 1903 to settle in San Antonio. Both were of indigenous origin. My abuela, Ecoetecan, my abuelo, Icapu, from the Nacimiento settlement in Coahuila. 160 years later, I'm back. I stand before you, or sit before you. Not till the 1960s did their descendants rise up in protest to reassert their cultural and political identity. That protest has come to be known as the Chicano movement. Since then, we Chicanos have come to realize more and more that our reality is that of an occupied nation. We live in occupied Mexico. 170 years later, Mexicans are still maligned in the U.S. at the highest levels of government, at best as murderers, rapists, gangsters, and at worst as less than human. Yet, consider these figures. The U.S. indigenous Hispanic population is greater than several countries in Latin America. The estimated total is up to about 60 million. At least 40 million of these are of Mexican origin. The Mexican-American population, therefore, is greater than several countries in Latin America. Only 3 countries have higher populations: Mexico, Colombia, and Argentina. Of the rest, 15 others, Peru comes the closest with 32.9 million people. Mexican Americans boast economic wealth as a whole greater than most of the Spanish-speaking countries in the world. A report in early 2017 estimated Hispanic buying power at 1.4 trillion in 2016, nearly 10%, 1/10 of the total U.S. buying power in that year, 2016. The U.S. Hispanic market is larger than the gross domestic product of Mexico and bigger than the economies of all but 14 other countries in the world. Remesas are the second of Mexico's top sources of foreign income, accounting for $26 billion that are sent home, or that were sent home, from January to November of 2017. There's another wall that I see that has risen through the course of time and troubles that stands tall and solid between us. Unfortunately, most of today's Mexican-American, the descendants of those first Mexican Americans and of migrants like my abuelos, have largely lost touch with our Mexican indigenous roots. Family relations, language facilities, cultural traditions, and religious ties that were closely bound with Mexico have faded away. Why are you concerned, you might ask? You have a rather good life north of the border, your standard of living is relatively quite high, and you have many Chicanos in elected positions, PhDs in academia, noted entertainers and authors, and presidential candidates. But to put it in context, it took about 170 years for all this to happen. Mexican Americans still rank lower than white Americans by far in annual income, job mobility, access to higher education, housing ownership, and so on. We do rank high in certain statistics. Families living in poverty, homelessness, incarceration, illiteracy, and access to health services. For more than 170 years, the U.S. government, corporations, financiers, newspaper, magazine publishers, and the entertainment industry, to name a few culprits, have suppressed the Mexican American people in many ways. Which is to say that none of us consider ourselves victims and seek pity. The Mexican Americans, in short, are survivors. We have sustained every kind of effort to wipe us out. We stand together in this regard with our other native peoples in the U.S. In fact, data from the 2010 U.S. Census show that 175,000 persons identified as Mexican American Indians. I was one of them. This new category of Mexican American Indians amounts to the 5th largest tribe in the native population in the U.S. In these few words, I only seek to lay the groundwork to urge Mexico, in the name of your president, elected officials, indigenous peoples, academics, and others, to sit down with those Mexican Americans and discuss what we must do together to fashion what lies before us. In other words, let's break down that wall, which for too long has separated Mexicans and Mexican Americans. There are two areas that I would like to recommend for further discussion and study. The first one is the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. I'm only going to mention it because time is limited and I would like to leave more time for questions and answers. It's a specialty of mine as far as the research and study and writing, so I do know something about the treaty. Let's face it, people in the U.S., including Mexican Americans, know very little, understand less about Mexico. But from the Mexican perspective, you probably know more about the U.S. than we know about Mexico. We don't see Mexican news or news about Mexico in the United States, and I think you see a lot about us in Mexico. This brings me to the latest development in the Chicano movement. This is the second point that I wanted to raise. At a conference on civil rights in San Antonio, Texas, in November of 2018, I posed this question during a panel. What does the future hold for Mexican Americans? The past couple of years, several 50-year anniversaries have been held. 50 years goes back to the time of the Chicano movement. And there are more to come. But what are we going to do for the next 50 years? Just dwell on the past? How are we Chicanos going to face the coming half-century? Are we going to let outside forces and events shape our existence? Are there concerns which we must address if we are to survive as a people beyond the next decade? During the panel, I introduced the idea of setting out a blueprint for us to follow, a plan. The idea caught on. The panelists gave me their blessing to attempt to put in writing what such a document might look like. By February 2nd, 2019, this year, I distributed the first version of the blueprint for the next 50 years. Since then, I've set up a blog. It's called blueprintpapers.weebly.com. And I have been holding regular webinars on Saturdays with a small group of scholars and activists dedicated to begin to answer those questions. Anyone who is interested can reach me at armandobirendon@gmail.com, and I have cards also available for anyone who wants to contact me. Okay? Now, what struck me was that of all concerns and all the issues that Mexican Americans are facing, there are some that only we are concerned about. Only we can do something about it. And in fact, no one else cares if we face them or not. And to be specific, affirming our identity, who we are. Finding our own voice. It's like everyone is speaking for us or against us. So that's the second thing. And alliances with other U.S. Native peoples. Alliances with Mexico and the rest of Latin America. Chicanismo as a philosophy. And Chicano literature and the arts. These are topics which we believe concern only Chicanos. That only we would care to confront, let alone resolve. The results of our efforts should benefit Mexican Americans in key ways, culturally, economically, politically, and psychologically. Underlying this thought is the realization that the future lies in our recognizing and enriching our indigenous origins. We have largely catered, one might say, to the Hispanic heritage of our background, while for various reasons ignoring or even suppressing our indigeneity, que somos indios con apellidos hispanos. Remember my reference to the 175,000 Mexican American Indians? That is a sign of the growing number of Mexican Americans affirming their indigenous nature, the desire to rebond with other tribes in the U.S. and Mexico and throughout Latin America. It also points to the realization that much of the shaping of the next 50 years in the U.S. and the rest of the Western continents might depend on how we sort out these concerns together. Our efforts are moving in the direction of our establishing a Chicano think tank, a resource to help address these concerns and tie in the organizing and training of organizers to address these goals at committee levels throughout the U.S. I ask anyone here who's interested, at least in following our efforts, to let me know, even form a parallel group here in Mexico. See me afterwards, we can exchange email addresses, cell phone numbers, whatever. Finally, I must recall to you that last year when I spoke at the previous conference, I said that globalization would be meaningless for Mexico without it taking into consideration the 40+ million Mexican Americans north of the border. Now I come with a great deal more interest. I think it's absolutely vital that we start to work together. We see what has been happening at the border. We're aware of the growing nativist and racist attacks against us. It's clear that the present U.S. administration doesn't care to differentiate between Mexicans, Mexican Americans, Central or South Americans. If you're brown, you're brown. What momentous timing for Mexico to initiate un enlace con Mexico-America. There are many Mexican Americans willing to dedicate their energy and time to nurture a relationship between us. For example, through a series of educational and cultural initiatives. To help address globalization concerns, Mexico has a major part, historically, culturally, and politically, in the Mexican American and Chicano people. That's why I would suggest a new term, continentación. Not just globalización, but continentación. I come with an urgent message. Reach out to your familia to the north of the U.S.-Mexican border. Help us shed the mindset that has been forced on us as a conquered people. We have survived attempts at genocide. They're wiping out our use of Spanish, school books that have passed on vile and untrue depictions of the Mexican people, and we intend to persist. I ask you to send more scholars to U.S. institutions to interact with professors and researchers there, and vice versa, of course. To have exchanges of artists and musicians on both sides to entertain and educate la gente, about our common roots and aspirations, and seek our common values, ideals, and aspirations. The blueprint for the next 50 years may help encourage a binational discussion about issues we can richly address. We cannot let the strident voice of nationalism be the only voice heard on these continents. We must create and reinforce alliances among peoples in the U.S. and Mexico, potentially all of Latin America. My goal at this conference is to ask you to join the discussion about our mutual identity and recognize when it comes to Mexicanidad, there is no wall between